Today, I'm in Meridian, Mississippi. I'm in a parking area that I believe may be part of the parking area for the Oak Grove Baptist Church here, or it may be just extra parking for the cemetery, as there doesn't appear to be much of a parking area in the cemetery. And both of them, as you can see, are just across the road from where I'm at. If you'll notice up to the left, there's a reddish-brown sign, and I'm going to head there first as it's going to be telling some information about the person's gravesite that I'm here to see today. I'm here to see a country music legend that has often been considered to be the father of country music. I'm talking about James Charles Rodgers, better known as just Jimmie Rodgers. Jimmie was a singer, songwriter, musician, and a performer, not to mention he was very well known for his yodeling. Now, why would Jimmie Rodgers get the nickname of Father of Country Music, as other country music stars has also been called that? Well, it could be that it was because Jimmie was the very first one in the very first group of people to be inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 1961 when it opened. The other two men in that group were none other than Fred Rose and Hank Williams. But the story is told that Jimmie was the first one that had his name called to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Now, Jimmie had a couple of other nicknames besides the father of country music. He had one called the Singing Brakeman. And if you're wondering why Jimmie would get a nickname such as a Singing Brakeman, it could be that his father had worked on the railroad for years and eventually worked his way up to being a foreman. But Jimmie would start out at a very early age, in his early teens, as being like a water boy for the railroad, and then he'd become a baggage handler, and eventually he became a brakeman. And at one time, they said he was even a flagman for the railroad. But off and on through several years there, Jimmie worked as a brakeman for the railroad, and that is also where he would pick up things that he would use in his recording later on is from, singing people that would be around the railroad. So it's not surprising that a lot of Jimmie's records would include things about railroads and trains and such. But Jimmie also had a third nickname. It was called the Blue Yodeler. And why would he get the nickname of Blue Yodeler? It's because a lot of his songs has been considered blues music. And also, a lot of these songs had a lot of his yodeling on it. Now that we've gotten up real close to the sign, you can see that it says, Jimmie Rodgers, Father of Country Music, singing winningly with storytelling clarity and physicality of the real lives and fondest dreams of his down-home audience, with varied musical backing that ranged from his own solitary guitar to rural pickers, horns, and Hawaiian bands. In just 5 years as a star before his early death in 1933, Jimmie Rodgers placed a defining stamp on what country music would be. Nashville's Country Music Hall of Fame simply called Meridian's Singing Brakeman the man who started it all. Well, let's take a look around on the back side of the sign to see if there's anything there that is said on it. And reflection of the sun may be where you can't read it very well, and as you can see to the left, there's a Rodgers big marker there, and we'll go that in just a minute. You may want to pause if you find a little area that you can read in between the sunlight what it has to say. In case you don't want to pause the video to try to read it yourself, and hopefully you can, I will tell you a few things that kind of stuck out in my mind that's on the sign. It said Jimmie Rodgers never heard the term country music as he performed in the 1920s and early 30s. The genre was just being defined. As I would have said it from being from the South, country music was just getting started. It also said that Rodgers was larger than life to fans, yet never above them. And this country girl would just say he was a down-to-earth type person that just made it big. The sign said in his own recording years, 1927 to 1933, that his records sold well not only in the South and throughout the United States, but across the world. It mentions that Jimmie's 112 recordings were varied enough to profoundly influence hillbilly blues, honky-tonk, cowboy ballads, bluegrass, and rockabilly and country artists. It mentions several artists on the sign that he would influence, such as Gene Autry, Ernest Tubb, Bill Monroe, Lefty Frizzell, Hank Snow, Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, and even Tanya Tucker, just to name a few. Now let's head on over to the actual marker of the gravesite. And it looks like that it's a family plot. As you can see, there's a border outline, looks like of concrete around a certain section here that's been graveled. When you're looking at this large marker here, you'll notice it had Carrie on one side and Jimmie on the other side. And of course, that's who we're looking for. But I just kind of wanted to give you a glance that there's a lot of them that are marked off in groups, which I would assume are family plots. But this is the one mainly for Jimmie and Carrie. And let's turn around and get a better look at, I guess you maybe would call this a footstone. I'm not sure if you'd call that a footstone, as all the others in this whole row are listed with the small markers. So let's go to the beginning where is Jimmie's gravesite. I'm going to refer to this marker as his headstone, as all the rest of them in this line are looking like this and tell their names and date of birth and death on them. And there you see it says he had the nickname Jimmie at the top, and he was considered America's Blue Yodeler. As you're looking at Jimmie's marker here, you'll notice that he died at the age of 35, and he died from tuberculosis. And Jimmie was known to sing all kinds of songs that pertain to his life, and including him singing a song about him having tuberculosis. Now next to Jimmie is the gravesite of his wife, Carrie Williamson Rodgers. And I think the First Lady of Country Music is just an honorary title because she was married to the father of country music, because most people would consider Tammy Wynette to be the First Lady of Country Music. Now we'll move on down to the next grave site, and that is going to be of, looks like Carrie Anita Rodgers Court, and it says that she was the daughter of Jimmie and Carrie Rodgers. I really don't know much about Jimmie's family. It's very little write-ups about them anywhere that I was reading. But if you look at her stone here, you can tell she died at the age of 72. And the grave next to her is going to be that of, looks like June Rebecca, which was the daughter of Jimmie and Carrie Rodgers. So they had a daughter here, and if you look at the date, she was just 6 months old. And if you know any more history or anything about his children or something I don't mention in the video, I'd love for you to give me a comment on it, because I love learning more about things that, I may have not known about. Next to that is Nettie Ruth, the daughter of M.R. and Gladys Hunt. And I'm assuming, because it's in this little section, it may be a family member, but I don't know how it's connected. That's another thing. If you know of any of these markers that I don't know anything about, and you know the people or anything about them, please leave me a note. And this must be her dad, because it has Mose Redden Hunt on it. And beside it, I guess would be the little child's mother, Gladys Ruth Hunt. It says, "Weep not, she's at rest." And now you'll see that there's 3 more graves in this row that I guess would be considered the family plot. Now of the 3 that are here at the end, I do know a little bit more about one of them, and that is Elsie W. McWilliams. And she would die at the age of 89, but Elsie was the sister to Jimmie's wife, Carrie, and she was very famous in her own right. She helped Jimmie write a lot of his songs. She would only take credit, they said, for like 20 of them, even though she wrote a lot more of them, as well as writing songs for other people. But she's been considered the first woman that had a career as a country songwriter. and she would give, the royalties of some of the songs to Jimmy and Carrie, and giving Jimmy credit for them because they were having such a hard time back in those years. Elsie McWilliams has been inducted into the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame. And also, speaking of that, Jimmie Rodgers has been inducted into the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame, the Country Music Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Blues Hall of Fame, and the Blue Ridge Music Hall of Fame. So as you can see, he had a wide variety of types of music that he was known for playing and singing. And while we're getting close to the big stone, I'm going to look and see if there's any writing on the back of it. And as you can see, it's only got Rodgers on it. As we continue to look at the two markers of Jimmie Rodgers, I'd like to say a few more things about him. It is said that in 1927, he would do his recording in Bristol, and I'm assuming it's Bristol, Virginia, because that's where the museum, and it said the recording studio was only 3 blocks away, but some people may say it's Tennessee, as you just look across the road, and the two towns are really basically almost the same as one town. Jimmie was not the only singer to make recordings in Bristol, Tennessee. It is said just a day before Jimmie did his recording there that a group called the Carter Family would record there. And that was the original Carter family, which included Maybelle, which was often referred to as Mother Maybelle Carter, A.P. Carter, and Sarah Carter. A.P. Carter was the brother to Maybelle's husband, Ezra, and Sarah was the wife of A.P. Carter, and she was also Maybelle's first cousin. And the reason I bring up the Carter family is because it is said that they received $50 for each song they recorded there, and they also received a 1/2 cent royalty on every copy that sold of each song. So I'm assuming, since it was Jimmie recorded a day later, that he would have received the same amount for his recordings. In 1998, Congress would declare Bristol as the birthplace of country music. I'm going to do a little bit closer up of Jimmie's marker here for a reason. On the left-hand side, there is a quarter there, because a lot of coins are always left on grave sites, but there's an old bottle cap, and couldn't make out what was on it. But on the right-hand side happens to be a guitar pick, and it has the name of Britt Gully on it. And I found that very interesting, as Britt Gully is a singer-songwriter from Mississippi, and he grew up listening to Jimmie Rodgers' music. Before ending this video, I want to mention 3 of Jimmie's songs that I really like. One of them is called Waiting for a Train, and it starts out with a train sound. And if you've ever seen a video of it, it's hard to believe those train sounds were made with Jimmie just using his mouth, and he did an awesome job of sounding like a train. Mississippi Moon is another one of Jimmie's really good songs. I must include one of his 13 Blue Yodeling songs, as they were called. It was the number 1 of the 13, and it was called T is for Texas. But I really love the second line included on that song. It said T is for Tennessee. So as always, thanks for watching my video, and have a good day.